Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'll be taking you guys through programming with C++ and we'll be doing an overview of C++ programming language. So I'm going to begin with the theoretical part and later on we'll dive into the practical session. At the end of this chapter, I will introduce C++ and we'll learn why we should use C++. We'll learn the difference between C and C++. We'll learn the object-oriented concept of C++, learn standard library components like the I/O stream. We also understand the C++ program development process flow and the difference between process and threads, and explore C++ programming in Coden C++ and not Codebooks. Alright, so we begin. C++ was created by Bjorn Stroustrup in 1979. It was formerly called C with classes. The name C++ was coined by Rick Machiti in 1983 and it was commercially released in 1985. C++ evolved from C. In mid-1998, the ANSI or ISO C++ language standards were approved. This is where the standard library and other functions of the C++ languages can be found. Now, why should we use C++? C++ is used in every computing system. It is efficient and close to the machine programming or the system programming language. It has an object-oriented programming and it's a compiled language. It uses a compiler to translate it from, since it's a high-level language, it translates it from a high-level language to the machine language for the machine to be able to process the programs. Now it has universally usable modular programs and portable programs for various platforms. So we dive into object-oriented programming and get to know what it's all about. Now, we are to identify components called objects and specify relevant data and possible operations to be performed on that data. Now, each object consists of a data and operations on that data. An object combines data and operations on that same data into a single unit. So an object is basically the combination of a data you input or you give and the operations made on that data into a single unit. Well, a programming language that implements OOD, which is the object-oriented design, is called an object-oriented programming language. And C++, as I said earlier, it has an object-oriented programming. So it definitely implements object-oriented design. Now we'll learn how to represent data in computer memory, how to manipulate data, and how to implement operations, write algorithms, and implement them in a programming language. Now we also learn how to combine data and operations on the data into a single unit called an object, as I said earlier. And I want you to know this, that C++ was designed to implement OOD since it has an object-oriented programming. The OOD, which is the object-oriented design, is used with structured design. Now, object-oriented programming has some features or characteristics that describes them. Firstly, we have the data abstraction. Data abstraction is just the creation of classes to describe objects. So what this means is that whatever you code on your software or in your software would be hidden by users. What the users will see is the interface or the output of whatever you've coded or run. Now the data encapsulation is for controlled access to object data. It mostly contains this object data and it controls the access to object data. Inheritance is by creating derived classes, and it includes multiple derived classes. We also have polymorphism, that's implementing instructions, sorry. They can also have varying effects during programming or program execution. This is a basic C++ program. So we begin. The hash include is a preprocessor directive. A preprocessor directive it's a program that is influenced by the preprocessor, and it always occurs before any other line of code occurs in C++. So the preprocessor directive tells you or includes other files and does other necessary things in C++. Now the IO stream, which is the input output stream, is the header file for this program you see here. Using namespace std, the std is a standard library where all the functions and formulas, all the syntaxes and every semantics can be found in. So when you input codes in a software that's using C++ language and you omit the std, that's a standard library, C++ won't be able to recognize what you've written because the library has been omitted. Without the library, it wouldn't recognize whatever has been instructed or given. So the standard library is important because it contains all these rules, all these set of codes and functions we need. The int main is the entry data. That's where we enter our data and anything we want to process and program. The parenthesis is always empty but it's needed. In the curly braces is where our program statements will be made and be instructed to be displayed. The console output, does the cout, displays whatever is inside our double quotes. That's enjoy yourself with C++. And the end L, it brings whatever, if I had, or if there was another cout and let's say hello world, that hello world, since you brought the end line, will go on the next line, but without the end line, the next let's say program you want the cout to display for you will be on the same line with the enjoy yourself with C++. So the end line sends the next program to be displayed on the next line, or we can also use, instead of the end line, we can use the / and n to make such corrections. So then return 0, thus you are done with your codes. So processing a C++ language or program. To execute a program written in high-level language such as C++, you use an editor to create a source program in C++. So the editor is just a software you use to program or create a source program in C++. So I'm going to be using code in C++. That's later when I dive into the practical session. In C++ program, statements that begin with the symbol hash or hashtag are called preprocessor directives. These statements are processed by a program called preprocessor. Now we use a compiler to check that the program obeys the rules. The compiler doesn't let me say like make you or output or let you know if what you've run is correct or not. It just check whether your program obeys the rules. It also translates into machine language. As I said, it converts high-level languages to machine language or object program. We have a software development kit, and it's used to create a program. Then we have the linker. The linker combines object program with other programs provided by the software development kit, that's the SDK, to create executable code. So codes that you can execute and run. Now this loader here loads the executable program into the main memory, and the last step is to execute the program. So all that I said, this is just a basic diagram to illustrate it. So the editor, where you create the source program in C++, the preprocessor, the compiler, the linker. Now in the linker, that's where we can find our library, the loader, then finally the execution. Now, in compiling and linking, we run the code through the compiler. If the compiler generates errors, you look at code and remove errors. Run code again through compiler. If there are no syntax errors, compiler generates equivalent machine code. The linker links machine code with system resources. Now, with the loader and the execution, once you've compiled and linked, the loader can place program into main memory for execution, and the final step is to execute the program. Compiler guarantees that the program follows the rules of the language. Take note, it does not guarantee that the program will run correctly. Now, when we talk about a process, it's a program loaded into the memory along with all the resources needed by the program. So any program that the loader loads into the main memory along with all the resources needed by the program is known as process. Each running instance of a program is a process. Each process runs independently. Now we talk about a thread. It's a unit of execution within a process. So multiple threads can be initiated from a single process. And there are two types of processes or threaded processors, the single threaded processes and the multi-threaded processes. So this is just the diagram or illustration of the thread processes. Now thread and processes in programming. So we say the program starts out as a text file of programming code, so just text of the codes, the program codes. Now, the program is compiled or interpreted into binary form, that's the ones and zeros. And the program is then loaded into the memory, and this is done by the loader. The program becomes one or more running processes. Processes are typically independent of one another. Threads exist as a subset of a process, so a thread can be found in a process. Threads can communicate with each other more easily than processes can. So now we delve into the practical session to see or to learn about how to create a basic C++ code like what I showed earlier. So we're going to be doing this, and I'm going to use coding C++ for it. Stay tuned. Welcome back. So with the coding C++, that's my editor. This is where I'm going to program my basic C++, or just give you the structure of it. Now, as I said, always begin with the preprocessor directive. This occurs before any other program occurs. Now the hash include, which is a preprocessor directive, includes a file to it. So the file can be IOStream. That is the input output stream, and note that the IOStream in the tags are known as is known as the header file. Then we come to our using namespace std. So this using namespace std, as I said earlier, the standard library is where we get the functions and processes and formulas the programming language understands, and it can execute or program or run what we want it to do for us. Now the int main then parentheses. This is where our data will be entered for execution. Note the parentheses is always empty. In the curly braces is where our data entry will be made. So now we see out. See out basically means display whatever I input in the double quotes. Just display it or run it for me or output it. So let's say my first enjoy my first let's say program using C++. Then remember you always return a 0 that you are done with your work at the end of execution. So as you said, it compiles, then it executes for us. So we have it here, enjoying my first program using C++. Now let me show you the use of the end L. So let me see out something again. Let's say hello world. Hello world. Let's bring exclamation mark. Now let's see what the end L does. I said earlier that the end L will end this line, the first line here, and will bring this hello world to the next line. Let's run it and see. So it compiles to check if there is error and if you obeyed the rules of C++. Now we see the hello world came to the next line. Now let's try omitting the end L to see what we will get. Note the operator is with the end L, so you sorry. Yeah. Now see, without the end L, the hello world enters into the line of the first one. There isn't any space between, so the end L sends that or this hello world to the next line. Now I said earlier that instead of the end L, we can use the / and n. So / and n right here. Then we do same for, let's clean this one. Then we do same for this. So this new line, it will send the next program to the next line. So we compile to see if we're obeying the rules. Then you see, so that the new line created a space. Let me show you why. Now, after it sent it to the next line, it created a space because I brought another / and n before I input the hello world. So without that, there wouldn't be any space between as you see here. So the end line can also help in spacing. You can bring this just to make your work neat. So it sends a hello world to the third line instead of the second. Now the end L cannot do this, but it only ends the first line, that's this one, and bring whatever you want to display on the next line for you. Thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And don't forget to turn on the notification button. So when I upload a video, you'll be notified. Thank you. This is a bye for now. Stay tuned for my next video on declarations and type. Thank you. Bye.